Good afternoon, Port St. Lucie. It's your mayor, Greg Orbeck, and we're here at the city's EOC, Emergency Operations Center, at the City Hall complex on Arosa Boulevard and Port St. Lucie Boulevard. Today we have a special guest for this Facebook Live, the one and only John Baldock, Chief of Police. Chief, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And do you have a message for the people of Port St. Lucie?
I sure do. So the storm stalled over in the Bahamas, and it's supposed to start its move today, probably late tonight. So I'm going to ask everybody to finish up your preparations. Most of the stores are starting to close down and board up, and get to your safe place, your home or your shelter, and let's ride this out together. And don't put us in danger by having to get out and patrol and follow you around. So it's getting to that time where it's time for everybody to hunker down.
Thank you, Chief. And stores are starting to close because we've been sharing information. Of course, the local news and citypsl.com/Dorian have tied people to the information that shares we're getting to that time of day where now the conditions are starting to deteriorate. We're getting more frequent squalls coming through as those bands pinwheel off Dorian. So later today, we expect the onset of tropical force winds, and that's really when it becomes unsafe to be on the road, and people need to be home with their families. And as you pointed out, Chief, it is just spinning there. And I know it's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for everyone. We've prepared for this storm for a long time. We've worried about it for a long time, and we're just going to have to worry a little bit longer. So if you've watched the recent update, you know that the cone has changed ever so slightly, but a portion of the city still is in that cone. We are still under a hurricane warning. And if anything should be clear to us at this point, it's that we do not control Mother Nature, right? We do not. So the best that we can do is be ready and be informed. So please complete your preparations, be in the safe place that the Chief talked about, and get ready to ride out the storm, understanding that still tomorrow, Chief, tomorrow, 2 o'clock, it'll just be 50 miles off of the Fort Pierce Inlet on its current track, roughly. So that's subject to change. Please stay tuned to your favorite news outlet and cityofpsl.com/Dorian. We're going to take some questions, but also I want to get the hotline out there. Sarah Prohaska, our Director of Communications, is in the room, and I know she'll give it to me if I don't, but the hotline is 873-6382. That's 873-6382. And you can ask us questions there, but you have us live right now, so we'll be happy to take any questions.
None have popped up yet, so hopefully we'll get a few. Oh, no, we just got one. And this is a frequent question for the Chief.
Oh, good. She's looking at the Chief.
All right.
Okay. Will there be a curfew tonight?
We do not anticipate imposing a curfew unless something happens that would make us have to do that. What we want is people to voluntarily have good behavior so that we don't have to put a curfew out. So that's the plan. If we do put a curfew, of course, we'll announce it via all the different medias, including our Facebook page and our web page, but we don't anticipate it with the storm passing by the way it is.
We don't have another question, but let's remind them about the evacuation order that was put out yesterday. So who should be evacuating?
So there's a countywide mandatory evacuation order for the Barrier Island and manufactured housing in low-lying areas. So if you've had severe flooding in the past in your home, now's a good time to go ahead and evacuate. That makes it, the water makes it difficult for us to get to you. And of course, the manufactured housing is kind of self-explanatory with tropical force storm winds. And we don't have any Barrier Island, so that pretty much covers it. The other thing is, I would just want to emphasize to people, if you see something suspicious, we have police officers all over the city. Call 911, let us know so we can come out and check it out. We certainly don't want anybody preying on us while we got our shutters up and nobody's watching.
We have another one, and maybe the mayor can take this one. Will any traffic lights be shut down or removed for people to watch out for? I know we've already taken down.
Right. So if you've been driving around town, you've noticed that many intersections have the signals actually removed for safety and so that they're there to go back up after the storm. we're pretty much at steady state at this point. We're fully mobilized here at the EOC. We're at the highest activation. So everyone who's here is staying, and our forces are essentially, if they're not complete, they just have basically the last few minutes of our final preparations. Everyone's been working. What do you got, Chief?
If you come to an intersection and the lights have either blown down or they're not operable, treat it like a four-way stop.
Yeah, good one.
Let's see. So if anyone has any questions, please type them in. Right now, we'll try to address them. We don't have any right now. Trying to think of so basically people should be getting their final preparations done right now, right?
They've had enough time.
Yeah. Gotta be, right?
I hope they're done.
Okay. My son lives in Tradition. What is the prediction for that area of Port St. Lucie?
So Tradition is it's outside of the cone right now. So clearly, even with that cone, the professionals at the National Hurricane Center see that as being outside a likely landfall. You could just expect some wind and rain, but not as bad as the east side of town, most likely. But this is where we talk about being cautious, and it just takes the one bad squall that maybe has a tornado or some type of severe weather where you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So this is one of those situations of you stay inside of your house, wait it out, and yes, it is going to take another day plus to get through, but that's what we have in front of us. And I guess what I want to leave you with is, why do people like the chief and like the city council, your city manager, and the whole EOC, why is everyone so serious about this? Maybe it's not going to hit. It's unpredictable. It's Mother Nature. And just look at what the Bahamas have gone through. So if you want to know why we cared so much and wanted to err on the side of caution and err on the side of preparation, it's because of the devastation that you're seeing in those images that are trickling out of the Bahamas. What they're going through is just, for me, it's unimaginable. Chief, I know that you went down to respond to Hurricane Andrew. That was my freshman year at the University of Miami. So that kind of formed our experience with it. But that's why, because earlier that was forecast to make a direct hit, and they still, when I say they, the National Hurricane Center, the great meteorologists and scientists there, they cannot rule out a landfall, a direct impact to anywhere in that cone, that forecast cone.
All right, so we had another one, Mayor, you might be able to address this. This isn't really a question, but it brings up some questions that I've received. She says, we are on Floresta, close to the new crosstown. Great job in cleaning up in preparation. Maybe, I know people have been wondering how we've been securing the crosstown site. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's an example of where we have an exceptional contractor and has gone through and picked up, all loose items, assembled equipment. Sometimes you have to stack things in the field, but you do it in a way, and then you anchor it so it can't blow away. So that's a good example. Several construction sites around town, you see loose debris out front, you see portalets not brought in the building, even sites with dumpsters where there's stuff sticking out. That's unfortunate. It happens across Florida, but that's something I think you'll see the council and I collaborate with the staff on finding a better solution moving forward. But for the most part, it seems like Crosstown's in good shape. Archer Western has shown itself to be a very high-quality contractor. But if you do see anything, out of an abundance of caution, and we all have smartphones, take a photo. Just take a photo, document it. Just heaven forbid something happen.
Okay, I think that is all the questions we have. We do want to remind people that St. Lucie County does their official briefings at 8, noon, and 5. I know the
Chief just came from it.
Came from those, so please keep an eye out for the St. Lucie County briefings. This is just a way for us to try to get more information out to the city of Port St. Lucie.
Right, city-specific information.
If either one of you have anything you want to say to wrap up?
Anything else, Chief? No?
PSL, let's stick together and get through this.
That's right. Let's just stay ready, and we'll get through this in hopefully 2 days. Thank you, Port St. Lucie.